Hello, this is Izan Kaku. Welcome to my SQLinjection tutorial / demonstration. Um, I'm running Fedora 28 as main machine, and we're going to use VirtualBox that's running Kali Linux, because Kali Linux has all the tools already installed in it. I mean, you could do that using Fedora 28, but it'll take a lot longer because you have to set up your lab and download all the tools that you need. It takes a lot longer. Since we already have that up and running with Kali, we'll go ahead and do that tutorial that way. I'm using simple screen recorder to actually capture the screen and voice and everything. So we'll go ahead and minimize all that and get to the fun. Alright, so now, before I get started, I just want to stress that this is only for educational purpose. So if you're willing to use it for a legal purpose, please go ahead and stop that video now and look for a different source. Now, the tool that you will need for an SQL injection, of course, is an application to inject with SQL statements. Now, I'm using DVWA. If you're not familiar with it, it stands for Damn Journal Web Application, and it can be downloaded from their website at www.dvwa.co.uk. It's actually a PHP MySQL application. Let's go ahead and let me put you in the home so you guys can read. And it's been made available to security professionals to test their skills and tools in a legal environment. So it's a really cool tool. You can do a lot of attacks. Brute force was really fun. SQL command injection, but we're focused on SQL injection blind at this point. Let's go ahead and look at the security setup. Yeah, you have you have low, medium, high, and impossible. We'll leave it at impossible so it mimics actual real life. Let's go back. SQL injection. So that's the application that will be injecting with SQL statements here. Now the second thing that you'll need is a network sniffer or a proxy tool to intercept and analyze traffic between the application and the end user. There's a lot of tools that can do that. I know that Wireshark is very powerful and effective, but since we're using Kali, we'll go ahead and use Burpsuite. Now if you have never used Burpsuite, that's what it'll look like when after you launch it. I launch it from the terminal. Of course, you don't need root access, but I mean it's always better to run it with root access. So that's what it looks like. We'll go ahead and get that going. My virtual machine is a little slow, so you guys bear with me here if it takes longer. Now the third thing that you'll need is an SQL injection tool. Of course, the injection could be done manually, but there are people that already work very hard to build tools that are really effective. They're automated, and you have really good feedback from them that allows you to know what's going on and where the problem is. There's a tool called BSQL Hacker. It's a pretty good one, but for this tutorial, we'll be using SQLmap. So that's what Burpsuite looks like. But let's go ahead and configure our web browser first. So we want to go to preferences and set it so that it listens to the proxy server. Let's go ahead and go to settings. We want manual configuration. Our proxy server is a local host, so he has to be listening to 127.0.0.1 and port 8080. Let's go ahead and save that, and we're all done here. There we go. Now you have to configure Burpsuite the same way. So if you go to proxy and you go to your options, I think by default you'll default the interface to 127.0.0.1 and port 8080. So we have that set up. You want to make sure that you have your intercept on as well. So now that we have it all set up, we'll go ahead and refresh the page. Well, let's go ahead and send some random user ID. I know that in real life it's not gonna be that way. You're not gonna get a page saying, hey, enter user ID, but what we want right now is just to intercept a URL that actually has some parameters on it. So here's the the request that we just submitted. We'll go ahead and forward it so that let's just go through. Now DVWA uses MySQL. Actually, I'm using Maria database, but using MySQL, and you'll need some kind of server. So Apache 2 is what I'm using. So I have that. I have both services running on the background as well. Okay, so that's basically all we need from there. We got what we needed. Now the information that we need here is just to make sure that there were some parameters sent. So if you look at the URL, you'll see that there was an ID that was 12345 that we just submitted, and he gives you a user token. Well, we'll need to capture the URL from here, so we can just go ahead and copy URL and then maybe copy it on your notes, whatever notepad you're using. And the second thing that we'll need here is the cookie. Let me go ahead and make that bigger. Is the cookie. So we'll go ahead and copy that cookie as well. Copy it. There we go. And then paste that on our notes. And there we go. Paste that right here. Okay. Now, SQLmap, if you're not familiar with it, it's an open source SQL injection tool. It supports a wide range of DBMSs, database management systems, including Oracle, I think, MySQL Server as well, Microsoft Access. Did I just say MySQL Server? No, I meant Microsoft SQL Server. It also supports MySQL. So it's a pretty powerful tool, and that's what we'll use to do our SQL injection blind. Now I know that I mentioned BSQL Hacker. I believe that only focuses on SQL injection blind attacks. So it'll be helpful for this type of attack, but you know, not anything else. Okay, so it's now that we got what we needed from Burpsuite, we can go ahead and close Burpsuite because that's basically all we need from there. And we're going to set those settings back on our web browser. So let's go ahead and go to advanced settings. I'll set it back to no proxy. It should be fine. Okay, now that we're done, now we need the terminal. Now, of course, you'll need root access to get that going. So let me get that running for me. Okay, so now that we have what we need, if you have never used SQLmap, you can use the man command and do the SQLmap, and it'll tell you a little bit about, well, show you all the options that you have. I already told you what that tool was all about, but you know, you have a list of options. So all this I didn't memorize it, maybe because I've been doing it so much, testing it a lot, that I'll know. But you know that you'll need a URL, you'll need a cookie, and then there's a lot of options once you get access to the database. But we'll get deeper into that here in a second. Let's just go ahead and quit. Okay, so to get SQLmap up and running, you want to start with SQLmap. Like I said, we need a URL. So let's get that URL going. Equals. Okay, so you want to copy the URL that we got. And again, the key here is to make sure that you have parameters, which is the ID, and then I mean some site will have a token, and you know, others not. But in our case, we do. So we'll go back to our terminal and paste that right here between those. All right, and then the next thing that you need is the cookie. Let me mention it. There we go. Let's go ahead and copy that cookie as well, and then paste that down in our statement. Okay, so go ahead and paste it here. I always forget that Control V doesn't work for when you're in the terminal. Okay, so now that we have both, okay, what do I do here? Okay, now that we have the statement all completed, if you run the statement the way it is, it's just gonna try that database and let you know if it's vulnerable or not. So let's go ahead and run that, see what we get here. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes here. Okay, now if you get the to redirect, it's just fine. You just want to go ahead and follow that. That means that you actually found something, or it's been redirected to a different file or a page. So we'll go ahead and do yes and keep going. Now after you do that, you see that you already detected a database management system, that is MySQL, and that's what was used to configure DVWA. So let's go ahead and get that minimized and go full screen. So that means that you can actually perform an attack, and there's probably some databases listed there. Now if you want to know if there are any, the command will be dbs, database system. We'll go ahead and launch that and see what we get. Of course we'll follow the redirect, and then it tells you what database are available in DVWA. So there's one that's called DVWA, which is probably the one that we'll go ahead and try to inject, and then there's another one that's called information schema. Okay, so now that we know that there's a database that's called DVWA, where we want to do the database option, so capital D, the name of the database, DVWA. And what we want to know if you're not familiar with a database, what I can say, I mean, it's an entire different, it could be an entire different tutorial. There's a full semester of database class, but I'll try to resume that really quick. So a database is basically a collection of information that is stored in an organized manner so that it can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. Now technically, a database stores several tables that are related to each other using ERDs, entity relationship diagrams. Now each table has a number of columns that holds a different type of attribute, that could be users, account information, first name, last name. So knowing, with that knowledge, we'll have an idea of how to attack. Now if you look at the manual of SQLmap and you're really not sure, now maybe with what I just said will probably give you a better idea of what's going on. So we know that the database is called DVWA, where we know that it has to have a few tables in there. So we'll do dash tables to take a look at all the tables that are in there and see what we get. Of course, we get the 3 to redirect. We'll go ahead and do yes. Now we see that there are two tables. There's a guest book table and there's a users table. Now one thing that I forgot to mention is that the website was set to impossible. Now if you run into any problems, or let's say you attack a website and the SQLmap command is throwing you an error, you can just change the security level to low by just erasing impossible here and then type low, and without you having to interact with the actual application, it will lower the level of security, which is a pretty good tool. But anyways, now that we know that there are two tables down there, there's a guest book table and the users table. We probably want to take a look at the users table, because I mean, hopefully he has some information like a username and first last name and password that you'll need maybe to to do your testings or whatever you want to do with that information. So let's go ahead and get going and see what information we can get under that user table. So we know that the table is users, so of course it's going to be capital T, so it's pretty simple. Now it's users. Now like I said, every table has every table has a lot of columns under them, so we want to see what actually stored in those columns. So we'll do columns and we'll go ahead and launch that as well. Now it looks like I'm missing an N here. Column scenario. Alright, so of course he'll get you to that redirect. You want to go ahead and do yes, and boom, we actually in the database right now. So we can see that there all the columns listed are the user, avatar, failed logins, the first, last name, and the password as well, the user ID, which is really good. Like say you're doing your attack on an actual application. If you have access to some username info and password, that'll be really good. Now, if that application stores other information like credit card information or anything like that, you'll be able to dump it that same exact way as well. But again, this tutorial is only for educational purpose, and I'm hoping that nobody is actually going to use it for illegal purpose. So let's go ahead and get going. Now that we know what are in those columns, let's see if we can get that information, actually pull it from the database. Now, if you want to pull it from the database, of course we know that it was column, so it will be -C, and we'll list all the columns that we want. Let's say we want users, user, we want maybe the first and last name, this is first name, there we go, and then last name. Maybe we want the password as well. See what we get now. Now the command to actually get that information for the database using SQLmap is the dump command. So you want to do --dump, and then we'll go ahead and do enter. It's supposed to take us to the redirect. We'll go ahead and yes that, and boom, here we are. Now as he starts working, you can see that there are a few users in there. You can see that there's TackMe, there is Gordon Brown, it's Pablo Picasso, and Bob Smith. Now you can see that there is like some sorry, some hashes here. Now when you see everywhere you see hashes, it means it's either important information that you'll probably need to decrypt or to decode. So most likely it's the password. Do we want to store it for this purpose? No, we do not. But if you, let's say if you're in real life, you might want to store that and then work on it later using, you know, some other software that will help you actually crack those hashes. So we'll go ahead and do no. Now SQLmap is such a powerful tool, and it's really nice. So it already asks you if you want to crack them via dictionary based attack. Let's see if we can get that crack here while we at it. So we'll go ahead and do yes, and yeah, it did not take a while. Now if we take a look at it, we'll see that there's a user that's called admin. If you are able to get the administrator username and password, I mean, you have access to the application. You can do whatever you want with that. Now there's another user that's called, of course, Pablo Picasso. Now the password here was cracked. Let me in. And that tells you how easy it is to crack. Like simple password. That's why it's really important to have special characters, uppercase, lower cases in your password and stuff like that. Now in real life, it's not gonna be that fast. It is fast right now because it's on my local machine, and we're not getting out of the network, so it's really easy for it to pull it out. And the second reason why it's that fast is because those passwords are really simple, all lowercase, and they are basically dictionary words. Now there's ABC 1 2 3, but I mean it's only the alphabet and 0 through 9, so that's just not a lot. Now if you add special characters, uppercases, that makes it a lot harder. It could take days and days to get it cracked. Now basically that's what it is in this SQLinjection. We did attack DVWA, and we were able to pull up all the information, all the users that are stored in there. So I hope that you enjoyed that tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comment, or send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to to answer your question or concern. Now, if you would like me to do a tutorial on how to actually install DVWA, or how to have it running with Apache, or how to have it set up with MySQL or MariaDB, because it was a little bit tedious, but go ahead and leave it in the comment and I'll be more than happy to help. Again, this is my first tutorial, so please be fair, and hopefully I'll have a few more out there. Thank you.